Good morning, Marc.
Good morning, Marc, and welcome to another episode of GMZ.
Season 4, episode 2.
Numero 2.
Episode 2. Episode 2 of season 4, and this one is called "Is There a Zombie Apocalyptic Conspiracy?" Right, Bex. So where do you want to start with this? Is there?
Can we not start? I've literally just realised that while checking out every other conspiracy theory that I could possibly find, I forgot to research zombie apocalypse.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you've covered the conspiracy theory basis. I'd like to think that they're all somehow, moulded into one, these conspiracies.
Yeah.
We touched on it a little bit in the last episode because we said about Trump building this $8 billion wall. $8 billion?
$8 billion.
Yeah, $8 billion for a wall. And obviously there's got to be something either, he wants to keep out or keep in that requires sort of a wall on the sides of like the Great Wall of China, which is just bonkers.
Is it zombies that he wants to keep out or in?
Is it zombies? So we touched on that. Obviously they're declaring the emergency to get the money, or is he declaring an emergency in advance so he can, he's ready, he's got all the presidential powers that come with being in an emergency situation. So you've got, so that was the start really, because I was sort of saying, well, hang on, this to me is suspect. It doesn't seem 100% kosher. And then obviously when you look at some of these news stories, a couple of years back there was the man who was high on bath salts who ate the other, I think it was in Miami, wasn't it, where he ate the other guy's face. And
he did.
You do see, if you Google around zombie apocalypse conspiracies, you do see lots of these videos that seem to sort of suggest that people are walking around in a zombified fashion.
We have a lot in Manchester. So there's a big drug called Spice that we have in Manchester. I'm not sure if you have it down south.
No, that's something that's in Dune, the book.
I know, it's Spice.
Spice, yeah.
No, it's a different kind of spice. So people, it's like a synthetic marijuana that is really cheap. It's much, much cheaper than normal weed, and it gives you a bit like some of the symptoms are like paranoia.
Yeah.
I've seen people like smack their heads off pavements, run at people and attack them. Look, honestly, some people look like they've got the rage virus from
28
days later.
28 days later, not 24 hours later.
I was going to say 24 hours later.
I was going to say 24 hours later. No, 28 days later. Yeah, that makes more sense. 24 hours later is a completely different film and is not as exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. Yeah, when you look around at these videos and you see these people walking around in a zombified fashion, is the media calling it a drug? Are they calling it a spice? I mean, they've blamed certain psychosis on drugs over the years. The governments of the world have used drugs. I know, and this is one of my, I guess it's a conspiracy, but I don't really know if it's a conspiracy. But tobacco. Governments of the world and the big companies knew about the danger of tobacco years ago. And what was it? It was 150 years ago, 200 years ago, maybe less than that, 150 years ago. There was like 2% of the world population who smoked. Like the very rich smoked tobacco, and it was seen for something that rich people do. But during the First World War, so 1914, 1918, the smoking became something that the populace did, because armies of the world gave their soldiers, the millions of soldiers on the Western Front, they gave them tobacco to pacify them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a form of control. I mean, they would suggest it's the same way of giving a small amount of rum that they gave to naval soldiers, or naval soldiers. They gave to
naval
sailors.
Men.
Yeah, they gave to sailors. It's that sort of thing. You get a small amount of rum, small amount of tobacco as sort of like a little morale boost. But tobacco, we know, obviously has certain controlling factors. You can, have people's routine set by their addiction to tobacco. So obviously the governments of the world were aware of this. So you went from 1914 with very, very few people smoking, and then in the space of 4 years, it was like 80% of the male population of the world was smoking, and then obviously fast forward 100 years and we've gone back down to a very small percentage of people smoking again. So
everyone just vapes now, don't they?
Yeah, so within the space of 100 years we've gone from no one smoking to everyone smoking to no one smoking again. And it's that sort of, is it a conspiracy? I don't know.
I'm not sure about conspiracy. I think it's more of a research point. So there's been a lot more research done. I think kind of in the First World War, people didn't really understand the implications, like health-wise, of smoking.
Yeah, but did they understand the control that come with, these morale-boosting narcotics, for want of a better description?
Control or giving people a little bit of a pick-me-up.
Yeah.
Because, it was horrid and, trying to take your mind off trench foot would help.
Yeah.
With the cigarettes, maybe? I don't know.
So I think there is, there's a precedent set for governments using substances or drugs and substances to control the populace. So maybe there's some of that going on. There's a certain amount of, drugs being allowed out into the populace to give this effect. I also suggested the other week that sort of antibiotics and, the strands of those that we're becoming immune to, the viruses, etc., and antibiotics not being effective. Maybe that could be something that would explain a conspiracy, why
That's more of an overusage thing, though, because bacteria are quite hardy, they're quite resistant, and they start to, once you start introducing certain antibiotics, eventually they'll go, hang on a minute, we've tried this approach before and these little bastards have killed us, so let's try and harden up, and they will harden to the antibiotics, causing resistance. So it's more of an overusage thing than a conspiracy.
Agree. But I mean, the conspiracy being that how super strong can some of these viruses be? Are they out there already? Is the government aware of more information about this than we are actually aware?
Well, it's like you sent me that message earlier saying that the CDC had a zombie plan.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now.
So, if the CDC have a zombie plan, what do they know? So
the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention in America, I'm looking at their webpage right now, and they have a web page on their website that is zombie preparedness, and on this zombie preparedness page they've got various sections. A zombie preparedness blog, they've got a zombie preparedness for educators looking to teach preparedness in the classroom, so they've got full lesson plans and activities for this to give to students in America. They've got a zombie preparedness poster that you can download the PDF, which says get a kit, make a plan and be prepared, right? No lie. And this is a picture of a zombie peeking out of a window.
I love how they've illustrated it.
Yeah, they've illustrated it. And then if you look on the blog here, Zombie Preparedness 101, the zombie apocalypse, and you've got a brief history of zombies. You've got better safe than sorry. So basically what they're saying, everything that we covered in the last episode, Bex, when we were talking about water, food, medication, tool supply, sanitation, they've got all that stuff listed down there. Barricades, even talking about barricades, crazy. And then
so do we think the CDC are working on a zombie virus? And this is why they've done a web page for it.
Are they working on a zombie virus? I don't think the CDC are deliberately going out to cause a zombie virus, but maybe behind the thinking of this is information that they can't tell the public. So maybe they're aware of diseases that could cause, like you said, like the spice drug addiction, we can cause like a rage thing, or some sort of mental health issue that could become a worldwide crisis. I think this is predicting not necessarily the undead rising from the grave, but definitely a mass population disease episode,
Ooh.
I don't. You look at this website here, and there is absolutely no doubt that they have put serious thought and preparedness into.
It's not even a joke webpage. It's
not even a joke website. This is an actual website for USA.gov, and it's a proper webpage. That makes me think in my. Not with my logic, because my logic tells me that the dead can't rise from the grave. There's not going to be dead people walking around. If you know anything a little bit about science, like you do, Bex, you know that the dead are not going to reanimate and walk the earth.
No,
you know that as
it's
a
just
medical
not possible.
But there are other things that could be on par. So there are other.
We're talking like mass disease, aren't we? Like widespread mass disease that wipes out a huge portion of the population. That's highly transcommunicable and the symptoms are out of control.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think that's when we talk about zombie apocalypse, I think that is part of that umbrella. We're not always just talking about the George Romero shambling zombies, reanimating corpses. I think sometimes what we're talking about is more the 28 days later, the virus, whether it's something rage infected or whether or not it's, something just, on the scale
like
Ebola. I mean, when we've had avian flu and we've had Ebola outbreaks and stuff like that, we've been very close to having a worldwide epidemic, but we haven't quite got there. One day that will happen. And I guess this is what, the preparedness is all about. So now we are fully fledged conspiracy nutcases, Bex.
We are, because I have been researching so much shit on my phone that I swear to God, Facebook is like throwing all the ads at me.
Are they? They're giving you the full flat Earth, join the the anti-vaxxers and all that stuff. Are you getting all those? Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so Bex, you remember we opened this up to the group, didn't we? And we was talking about this with the Good Mornings on Pop Facebook group.
Yes, we did. And I'm not sure if that was a good idea or if we were just a bit silly. Well,
we've definitely discovered that our group of people are certainly of the conspiracy type, shall we say. So I've got some here that I think I should share with you. Okay, so I haven't got names of who wrote these ones down, so I'm not going to name them. So I've got they, in quotation marks, they, you know them,
are.
Yeah, they know
them over there.
They know exactly what happened to MH370. I mean, for fuck's sake, if you can find my iPhone, you can find a Boeing 777, which is a fair point.
So that's that plane that went down? Is that Malaysian Airlines plane that went down?
They went completely missing. And if you look at how many airplanes go missing in a year, it's quite a lot. It's quite a surprising amount. I mean, not that many, full of tourists going to Disney World, because otherwise that would be on mainstream media. But smaller airplanes disappearing is not that unusual. Bigger airplanes is quite unusual, but there's still been quite a lot go over the years.
So the only thing that I can think of that's happened with this plane is, obviously there's large amounts of the ocean that we've not looked at yet, that we've not discovered. There's places that are so deep that we can't physically get to it because the pressure's too high, it would just automatically kill you. So the only thing I can think of is that the plane's gone down in the middle of the ocean and has gone into like a big cavern that we can't get to. It's just messed up with all the reason why we can't find it is because it's been destroyed by the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of fucking ocean. Let's not get...
there is a lot of fucking ocean.
It is far bigger than what most people realise when you look at a map. It's fucking massive.
Depends what map you're looking at.
Yeah, so...
We'll move on to that later.
Oh, God. So the world, right, was another one from one of our GMZ members. The world is run by 3 families, okay? That's all it says. The
Targaryens, the Starks, and the...
Yeah, someone else. Yeah.
The Lannisters.
Those 3. Then the next one is the Queen orders...
Did you say what 3 families?
No, just 3 families.
Just 3 families. They're just run by 3 families.
3 families. Yeah. All of them lizard people, probably.
Okay.
The Queen ordered the hit on Princess Diana. That's.
Now this is me and Si were discussing this the other day because I was saying to him, do you think there's any truth in it? Or, why would they want to kill her? And there's theories that, she was pregnant and they, technically, if all the royal family died and she gave birth to an Egyptian Muslim baby, the Egyptian Muslim baby wouldn't be able to go on the throne because of its heritage. And, there's all things around that. That's why there was a hit out on her, hypothetically. But what we were saying is, if you're going to kill someone, it's really, really bloody difficult to do it as like a car crash, because you've got to anticipate the speed, you've got to anticipate where they're going to be, what route they're going to take. You've got to anticipate that they're not wearing a seatbelt and they're going to be killed instantly, or they could just be injured, because there's no guarantees with car crashes.
Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a moment here, Bex, because I don't believe that she was murdered. But if you was going to murder a member of the royal family, what you wouldn't do is stage a car crash. What you would do is murder that person and then go to a tunnel, set it up as if it's been a car crash, then pay a bunch of reporters to pretend that they were chasing and have a whole bunch of backstory, and then just then phone up an ambulance and say there's been a car crash.
The thing is, with paying off that many people, is one person would crack.
Yeah, unless they're all MI5 agents.
Oh, pretending to be reporters.
Yeah, it can happen. Okay, the next one. This I don't know who this is from, and this says, having been to Roswell and seen the evidence there, I 100% believe UFO crash landed there, and the US government has the evidence which they have hidden away and covered up. So what do you think of that?
So
one?
what evidence did somebody see in Roswell though? Because I thought, because Area 51's closed off, so you can't go in there and see any evidence. So I'm wondering what evidence.
Yeah.
They saw.
Yeah, and if you've got evidence, then share the evidence with everybody else. That's it. If you saw evidence that convinced you, share the evidence with me so you can convince me. That would be my take on it. I understand what you're saying in that, you've seen evidence that has convinced you, but then on the other hand,
have you seen a little green spaceman?
Yeah, and a bit like what we were just saying about the Princess Diana, how do you keep that a secret?
Someone would crack.
It's been since the 50s, and obviously what you find with every government since the dawn of time, they can't keep a good secret.
Or don't they think that JFK though was killed because he was going to
tell the story of aliens?
Tell the story of the aliens.
Yeah. Don't you think
that's a conspiracy theory around that anyway?
Don't you think on day one of Donald Trump's being a president, he would have gone straight to Area 51 and asked, and then tweeted it, live tweeted the whole experience?
Yes, he so would have.
He would have, and then
he would have done a selfie with the alien and everything.
He would have done a selfie with the alien and then blamed Hillary Clinton for the whole thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. So
fake news.
There's no aliens in Area 51. I'm very sorry to disagree with that. I used to believe in aliens, but then I used to smoke a lot of weed when I was a kid. And stoners always believe in aliens. Every stoner I've ever met has seen an alien or a spaceship.
That's the hallucinogens for you.
Oh, I met the amount of times as a kid you'll be, standing around having a smoke with some pals, and it used to always cause a big laugh because there was always one guy would go, "Yeah, man, I've seen aliens." And you go, "Yeah, we know. Everybody's seen aliens,
Aliens are real, man.
Everybody in this group agrees with you that aliens are real, and we all saw one over there." But yeah, I think it's something that you do. I want to say grow out of, but it's something that I grew out of as you learn more about the universe and you learn more about the world and you learn more about sort of what actually happens in these secret government facilities and how crap governments are at keeping secrets, that you start to not believe anymore.
I believe in aliens as I believe in that we cannot physically be the only source of life in the whole entire universe.
Yeah. I
don't believe they crash landed here.
No. I can guarantee you one thing. If we ever made contact with aliens or aliens made contact with us, we would probably
be dead.
Try to kill them or they would try to kill us. And the reason I say that is we have animals or creatures on this earth that are sentient beings that can feel empathy and sympathy, and they can feel lots of emotions and care for their young, and we still treat them like fucking circus animals. So what do you think you're going to do? We've been here for millennia, and we still can't communicate on an equal level with these creatures, and we still don't understand their way of life. And you're going to think you're going to understand an alien species within the first few seconds. It's not going to happen.
No. And we're going to offend them in some way because that's just how we are.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what we've done to the world's oceans and the creatures there, and you think, well, that was an alien environment, and technically they were aliens within it. And the first thing we did was murder them, as many as we could, and
eat them.
Yeah, and what we did to indigenous species around the world is we discovered them, we murdered them, we infected them with disease. And I can't see first contact with aliens being any different. I'm afraid it's just human nature. Okay, so let's do some more of these conspiracies that other people have got here, Bex.
Okay.
Oh, this is one of my favourite comments. You're going to like this one. I'm actually going to name this person because I think this is absolutely brilliant. He's never going to live this down. This is Marc Leaney. He said, I don't really subscribe to any of them Although I do believe in monsters and the supernatural, I wouldn't be surprised if their existence is covered up somehow.
So he does believe in some of them.
He believes in everything, apparently, but doesn't actually believe in any of those specific conspiracies, but everything else, and that they're all being covered up. So monsters and supernatural. So ghosts, werewolves, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster. Where is the benefit? Where is the benefit for governments to cover up the ghosts or the supernatural? Where's the benefit to cover up Bigfoot? It could be a great tourist attraction if you could prove Bigfoot. Yeah. You could earn a lot of money out of that. Imagine if Bigfoot was spotted in North Korea, everybody would be going to North Korea. Not that you want to, be a tourist attraction. You could have Bigfoot land, and we could all go visit.
Bigfoot land in North Korea.
They can have amusements and stuff.
Where are you going on holiday this year?
Bigfoot land. It'd be bigger than Disney World, and we'd all go and we'd see the big feet, and it'd be great. But there, I don't see the benefit in covering up stuff like that.
No, like why would they bother?
Yeah,
I don't know. Why would they bother covering it up?
And there's another conspiracy theory here, Bex, and I'm going to stop waffling on and let you speak for a little bit. This conspiracy theory says lizard people are running America.
Yeah, I love the lizard people.
So what's your take on lizard people, Bex?
I have no idea why people would come up with something like this, because it really boggles the mind, because there was no kind of evidence or any kind of lead up to it. It was just one crazy guy was like, yeah, there is a reptilian species that are infiltrating the government, and everyone believes him. Well, not everyone, but I found a poll, and apparently something like 4% of America think that lizard people are real.
Yeah.
And 7% are unsure. So 4%, I think that they said that was something like 12 million people.
Yeah.
In the USA believe that lizard people are running America.
Yeah.
So that's 12 million people who this guy has just suddenly gone, and this guy was English.
Yeah.
It's just suddenly gone, yeah, lizard people.
Are we talking about
okay.
Are we talking about David Icke? Is that what we're talking
David
about?
Icke, yeah.
So David Icke used to be a footballer, a goalkeeper, I believe.
Yeah,
and then he was on TV.
Yeah, he was in the Green Party, I think. He was like a spokesperson for the Green Party. So he got a lot of airtime.
Yeah, I mean, I remember he was on Terry Wogan when I was a kid, and he wore like a purple shell suit thing, and he came on, and nobody knew what they was letting themselves in for. And this was on the days when you had 4 TV channels, and Terry Wogan was the big hit. He was the big draw. So you had like, I don't know, millions and millions of people watching this one TV program live, and then he was he was working for the BBC at the time as a sports broadcaster, and obviously he was a member of the Green Party, so we thought he was going to talk about politics and sports and stuff like that, and he just started spouting stuff about lizard people and the Queen.
Yeah, he started talking about like vibrational energy and
I mean, look, I've done a little bit of research into him. He's wrote 20 books. He does massive talks to thousands of people that last for hours. And he sells millions of books, apparently. Although some of them are a bit iffy.
He said that concentration camps weren't real, didn't he? He said that it never happened, like Auschwitz and all.
Yeah, there's a book called Elders of Zion, or The Protocols of Elders of Zion, which is a notorious anti-Semitic book. And I think it was wrote in the 20s, something like that, and they're pretty sure that it was a forgery. It wasn't a real thing. It was wrote by secret police to sort of undermine Jewish people by having this conspiracy about Jewish people, as was very big in the 20s and the 30s, which led obviously to the Holocaust in the 40s. And he used that book as a sort of as a guide for doing his own conspiracies, because obviously that was kind of he has since come out and said that his work isn't anti-Semitic, it's not racist. He doesn't necessarily believe in different races, and he believes that the answer is love and peace and stuff like that. That's what he believes.
Well, I mean, I don't know how we can say that, because I've got like a little version, a little snippet of one of his books, and he's basically saying that like Schindler's List is being used to indoctrinate children into the unchallenged version of events. So he's basically saying that no one has challenged the Jewish people on the Holocaust, and
so he's doing that typical thing that anti-Semitic people do, which is undermining the whole race by using this theory that somehow Jewish people are controlling the world's finances, the world's media, and but you can say it's not a racist thing to do, but when you're attacking the whole race using, a sort of overarching theme, then that's
racist.
Even if you do it on a huge scale, it's still racist. So I as much as I like his theories on sort of love and peace being the answer to the world, and what he says about the media, even back when he first started in the 90s, what he said about media was, it's very much come true. It's a very much an Orwellian nightmare that he predicted, and he was very true about that. However, the whole racist side does kind of demean all of those good parts of what he says.
And the lizard people side
of it. And the lizard people, because he believes that there's an interdimensional race of reptilian beings called the Archons, or the Archons. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah. And apparently they've hijacked the Earth, and that there's a genetically modified hybrid of person that shapeshift. They're reptilians and they shapeshift. And they're known as the Babylonian Brotherhood or the Illuminati. So we're back to the Illuminati, which is kind of a Jewish conspiracy, isn't it? It's one of those things where they use to attack the Jewish race, anti-Semitism. The Illuminati, it's Jewish guys in back rooms solving the world's problems.
I didn't know the Illuminati was like a Jewish thing.
Well, people use it to attack that because obviously it's it's like the Rothschilds and people like that. People in lots of power who have lots of money. So people use the Illuminati to attack. It's an anti-Semitic belief that there's an elite type of people in the world that's exactly what Adolf Hitler said. I know what did it take 20 minutes to get to Adolf Hitler, but it's exactly what he said. It's those beliefs of the 30s that somehow there's a race of people that have been behind all the bad in the world, which is absolute nonsense.
Bollocks.
Yeah, because all of the bad in the world is done by us, everybody, you, me,
it's not
them,
just
everybody.
It's not just one person.
No.
It's not just one colour. It's not just one religion. It's...
Yeah. So David Icke is an official lunatic who invented the...
no wonder he's been divorced twice.
Has he? But the second one who divorced him just shapeshifted into someone else.
She was the ultimate lizard person.
Yeah, she actually infiltrated his own marriage at home by shapeshifting into his wife. He didn't really lose a wife. He just gained a reptile.
Gained a lizard.
Gained a lizard. Okay, so David McCluskey, who's an author in our group, isn't he? And he wrote a story recently for Valentine's Day, Zed, a love story, which was really good. He said, this is what he has to say about conspiracy theories. He said, the best conspiracy theory that was ever conceived was the creation of conspiracy theories.
Yeah, because it's got people questioning things. Like maybe some of this stuff is true and people have just planted, say like the government, I put the government in inverted commas, have planted enough of a seed for a select few people to catch on to it and be like, oh no, this is happening. But then the rest of us think they're crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they're saying something that's not in the majority.
Yeah, and it's a way of debunking the truth, isn't it? Because... as a society, we know that society can be unfair. There's people with lots of money. We know that the vast majority of people are poor. There's a very minority that are extremely rich, which could quite easily sustain the poor. Easily. Mm-hmm. We know that as a fact, as a financial fact. But obviously the people who have the power, who have the money, don't want to relinquish that because, very often they're corporations as well as individuals, and they're not going to relinquish that easy. That's their job, to retain that wealth. But obviously being able to debunk everything that any right-minded person says by saying, well, you're in with the anti-vaxxers, you're in with the flat earthers, you're in with the lizard people, you're in with the UFO people, you're in with the crazies. It makes life really easy to actually debunk anything that people's got to say that's actually real,
Yeah.
Because society is a big shroud, isn't it? It's it's like the Wizard of Oz, isn't it? Like society is behind the curtain, and all we see is the sort of the front of the curtain, as it were. And
we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, do we?
We don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. In reality, we don't know how money markets work because we're not working in them. We don't know how we see how laws are made, and it's not always the best. It's, making laws is a bit like making a sausage. You're quite happy to have them, but you don't want to see the manufacture of them because it's awful.
Yeah.
But when people, throw open the curtains, expose the wizard for what he really is, they can just turn around and go, well, no, you're one of these. You're one of these crazies. Close that curtain back up, So it is. I agree with what David's saying. It's. I'm
wondering if it's a bit of like a front as well. So, the world's full of really shitty things done by some really shitty people, and by dehumanizing them by saying they're lizard people or anything like that, does it make people feel better as a human?
I think human beings are pattern seeking, aren't we? We look for patterns in everything. So it's natural for us to come up with conspiracies because that's how the human brain works. We look for a pattern and then we attribute our own knowledge to that pattern. Now, sometimes our own knowledge is quite limited. Sometimes the knowledge that we've taken in is not 100% factual. And in this day and age where we can read snippets on the internet really, really quickly, we can take in lots of sort of faked facts, for want of a better description, fake news, and we can read lots of this stuff, take it in, and we see a pattern, and we automatically, our brain says 2 + 2 = 4, and then you have a conspiracy. And in this day and age, we surround ourselves with people who think like-minded. There's not that many people who are happy to have others question their beliefs. Everybody believes mostly in Western society, we believe that our beliefs are sacred to us and we're allowed to have them, and other people shouldn't be able to question those. And that's right. If you've got a religious belief, you shouldn't have people walking up to you in the street and questioning them. But on the other hand, some beliefs are fucking crazy, and they should be questioned, But one man's crazy is, another man's logic. So
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you knew nothing about the human race and you arrived on this planet tomorrow, and someone presented you with Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, and a plethora of other religions, you would look at all these people and go, which one of you is absolutely mental? Because you all look it, you would.
I've just been from the heavens. There is no God up there.
Yeah, but I mean, whether you believe in a deity or not, the actual what their beliefs are, you would think you're all crazy because they're all, some of them are exactly the same, some of them are very contradictory, and you all seem a little mad. But then if you in that same group you put a flat earther and you put a reptilian, people who believe in reptiles, reptile people, and you put David Icke in there and you put an anti-vaxxer in there, and you still wouldn't be able to spot the crazy if you didn't know the difference. You sort of I'm starting to sound like one of these conspiracy people, by the way, because we've all been preconditioned to understand certain things as logical. We from a young age we're taught various things that are conditioned into our minds, and we understand those as logical.
And maybe it's, some people just want to rebel against those things, like, rebel against the establishment for teaching you certain things, and then you go in and doing your own research and thinking, actually, this doesn't all add up.
Bex,
and then you look more deeper into it.
So you watched that Flat Earth documentary on Netflix, didn't you?
I did.
As did I, which was absolute comedy gold.
It was that blonde guy who was just, I mean, like, as flat earthers go, they're all nuts, but he was just another fucking level.
Yeah. What was his name? I think it was Marc.
Math something. No, his name was Matt something, but he was called like Math.
Oh.
Math something.
Yeah.
No, that was the bloke who they were focusing on was called Marc Sargent.
Yeah, and he had a podcast, and his name was Marc, and he had a T-shirt with his own name on it.
I am Marc Sargent. All I wanted to do for that whole fucking film was rip that T-shirt off. Who walks around with a T-shirt with the I am whatever your name is on it?
Bex, I think you'll find that I wore a T-shirt with my own name on it.
Yeah, but I mean, mine had Bex on it, but that was just that is different.
Hang on, we had a podcast. We walked around with T-shirts with our own names on it. We are these people.
Oh fucking hell, we're like flat earthers.
Yeah, unfortunately. But there was a brilliant bit in it where he's sitting with his mum. Marc Sargent was sitting with his mum, and she said to him, "So how many doctors do you have in your flat earther movement? He said, well, none. So
how many scientists?
How many scientists? Well, none. How many college professors? Well, none. And she said, why is that? He said, because once you're educated to a certain level, you can't understand the flat earth.
Yeah, you can't. Once you're educated to a certain level, you are so indoctrinated into the education system that you cannot get out of it. You cannot open your mind up to other possibilities.
Yeah.
And that's because once you reach a certain level of education, you're not a fucking idiot anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's the same with vaccines, and it's the same with lots of things. It's even the same with UFOs for me, because once you start, I read a lot of books about physics, and I don't understand it all, but I try to read as much as I can. But I read a lot of books about physics, and once you start learning about the universe and science, you realise actually the universe is far more interesting than just aliens landing on Earth. It's far more interesting than that. It's fascinating, and then you lose interest for those other sort of Mulder and Scully type things.
I mean, my favourite part of that film was when they did have a scientist in the end, didn't they? Like I don't know whether I think he said he was a physicist.
I can't remember. I don't think I got to the end.
Towards the edge, not. Well, I'll explain to you then. So they wanted to do experiments to prove that the Earth had no curve.
Yeah.
And so one experiment was to prove the Earth had no curve, and one experiment was to prove that it doesn't spin, that the Earth is stationary. It doesn't spin through space at however many miles an hour it does. So somebody brought a £20,000 gyroscope.
Yep, to see
obviously
the spin of the Earth, yeah.
Yes, it's spinning the Earth. So the Earth spins 360 degrees in 24 hours. So they said, right, we'll put this gyroscope down. And if it tilts 15 degrees in an hour, then that means the Earth spins. So what did it do? It tilted 15 degrees in an hour. So then they started saying, oh no, it's the heavenly bodies that are spinning and it's throwing the gyroscope out of whack. So they put it in this like a cement type cylinder.
Yeah, and it still did it?
And it still did it.
Yeah.
And then he said, no, okay, there's still some interference from the heavenly bodies. We're going to have to put it in like a much harder element of a container, which they didn't show towards the end of the film. But he was like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
But I still believe that the Earth is flat.
It's a bit like burning witches, isn't it? Or dunking stool witches, isn't it? Like if she drowns, she's not a witch. That type of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But then they also did another experiment at the end. And this sealed the deal for me because I cracked up because they ended it really abruptly after this. So they had somebody at one end with a light shining through a hole, and they had someone at the other end, like about a mile or so away, with another hole.
Sure.
And they said that if there's no curve to the Earth, they'll be able to see the light from the one hole to the other hole.
Yeah.
They said, but if there is a curve to the Earth, he's going to have to hold this light right above his head.
Yeah.
So they can see it at the other end. So he's shining this light, and the bloke at the other end with the cameras there going, I can't see the light. Are you holding it to the hole? And he said, yeah. He said, right, hold the light above your head. So he held it above his head, and the light shined through, proving that there's a curve. And then the film just ended, and I was just in bits. It was so funny.
Brilliant.
So that's it. They proved their own theory wrong, but they still believe in flat Earth.
The thing is with these people, they surround themselves with people who agree with what they've got to say. And do you know what? I kind of felt for them a little bit. And I think that because of what we do with the podcast and our community, I kind of feel like they did this because it's a community. It's their friends, and it was part of their movement, and their belief sort of gave them an identity. And even though it wasn't true, that was still their identity. It's kind of...
I don't know if it's just gone a bit too far now that if they're going to lose face.
Yeah.
Because one of the scientists, because they obviously, if you watch it, they had a couple of actual scientists on that were basically saying the Earth is round.
Yeah.
And they said, as a scientist, yes, do your experiments, make up your theories, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't pan out and it doesn't prove, then there's no shame in saying, oh, well, I had this theory, I did the experiment, it didn't work.
Yeah.
I proved myself wrong, because that's science. Science is about proving yourself wrong or right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of science. I mean, you can have a theory and then you do the experiment. If it's a well-conceived experiment and then it fails, you've learned as much, if not more, than if it was proved correct. If it's proved correct, your theory's confirmed, but you already knew that at the beginning. Right?
Yeah.
If it's incorrect, what you've learned is that theory that you had needs adjusting or changing. You've actually learned more than what you do if it's correct. That's the thing about science, is the difference between science and conspiracy theory. Science is about facts and fact checking, but it's always evolving, it's always changing. Scientists are always willing to say that's incorrect. I mean, Einstein had some fantastic theories, but he admitted that a lot of what he did at the beginning, was never going to add up in the modern quantum universe that the physics got to in the end, And now we're coming to grips with how Einstein's theories fit with quantum physics. But that's long after he's passed away. It's long after he's dead. But no one says Einstein wasn't a genius. He was, even though some of what he said wasn't 100% true. It's the same with Charles Darwin. Not everything he said was 100% true, but that was the information he had at the time. Some of the stuff panned out, but that doesn't make him less of a scientist. That's science. No. That's how it works. So yeah, that's conspiracy theories versus science. And so where are we up to, Bex? Is there a zombie apocalypse conspiracy? Yes or no?
As in traditional zombies, as in like slow shuffling Romero zombies, then no.
Okay. Is there a conspiracy theory hiding some type of massive outbreak?
Again, I don't think there's a massive outbreak that's going to happen, but I think that there is a lot of kind of like weaponized diseases that governments work on.
Okay. So so we can be prepared, like we said in our last episode, but we don't necessarily have to be prepared for the dead walking on Earth.
No, it's not. It's not going to be a dead walking apocalypse. If any apocalypse happens, it's either going to be the sun's going to blow up, or there's going to be some kind of weaponized disease.
Yeah, I personally think, right? I think you more likely that's going to happen in the next 20 or 30 years. If we're looking at what the actual likelihoods of things happening, you could have a complete financial meltdown, which would lead to, untold riots and maybe a breakdown of society. Although I do strongly believe in the power of a human being, and I think society wouldn't stay broken down for very long. But, I think it could happen. I think that's number one. I think number two, you're looking at sort of, an asteroid or a large, solar event that could cause mass destruction on Earth. Again, I don't think it would wipe human beings out. I think we would survive, just maybe drastically reduce numbers. And I think obviously that the final one is humans actually evolving to be non-compatible with this is quite controversial, I would have thought, but humans actually evolving to be non-compatible with nature, because we live out of sync with nature. We live out, everything we do in our lives is artificial, and I think a lot of modern disease comes from that, and I think that
it's going to be almost like a global warming type thing, isn't it, where we're not looking after the environment.
Oh shit, I didn't even say global warming.
People think global warming is a conspiracy theory.
Do they? That's crazy. See, this is another thing that drives me mad. Sorry, I've started to end the podcast and I'm coming back, but this is another thing that drives me mad, because I think it's the very real danger of our time. It's the
and people think it's fake because it's cold.
Yeah.
But you just look at the weather over the last week. It's been absolutely boiling. It's February, and people are still debating global warming when polar ice caps are melting, seas are rising, it's getting warmer, but then it's winters are colder, and people are still denying it.
This is the actual crazy thing about humanity, isn't it? A few hundred years ago...
Yeah, you don't believe the real stuff that's proven in front of your eyes, but you will believe that lizard people are running America.
Yeah, exactly. People believe that nonsense. In the past, in medieval times, or even not so far back as that, people would build for their future. So they'd start a cathedral. 50 years later, that cathedral will be finished. Or, they'd start a massive monument. 100 years later, that massive monument would be finished. In antiquity, you would have these sort of massive structures, or even going as far back as like Stonehenge, into ancient times, and they'd spend decades or hundreds of years building these structures, and then they would stand for 400 or 500 years, and we could think that far ahead then. Now, because life moves so fast, we can't even think 30 years ahead. We're using fossil fuels that we know are running out, we know are causing harm to the environment. We're using plastics.
We've still got no real reusable source of energy that anyone's found that's reliable.
No, there are, lots of things we could do on a personal level. There's lots of things we could do on a government level. Lots of things we should be doing at an international level. But we're still talking about fucking Brexit and a fucking wall. $8 billion on that wall. They're still talking about a wall, still talking about Brexit, which is going to cost billions as well.
Yeah.
When there's actual real harm happening to the environment today, and it's going to affect our kids.
It's going to kill us eventually.
Well, yeah, I mean, our kids are going to be dealing with this, and their kids are going to be very drastically changed. Their lifestyles can be very drastically changed unless we deal with this right now. And it absolutely baffles me that the President of the United States can treat this like a conspiracy theory, that thousands of people around the world can say, not all scientists agree with it. There's all these scientists that disagree. No scientists at all, none, disagree that there's climate change. None.
Exactly.
Okay? They might.
And Donald Trump's a cunt.
Yeah, they might disagree that there's, global warming. They might disagree of the effects of global warming, but none, absolutely zero, disagree with the fact
Don't believe it's happening.
Don't believe it's happening. That there's climate change and we are the reason that that's happening. So yeah, if you believe that it's not happening, then unfortunately you're also
You're a dick.
Anyway, that got a bit deep.
That has fucking depressed me now, that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Should we go back to
my
talk about
grandchildren
zombies?
are going to die of global warming.
Yeah, well, they might end up with webbed feet.
Yeah.
If you're from Norfolk, you've already got them, so you're safe.
I'm not from Norfolk.
But some people are. And they've got webbed feet already, so they could just swim off. Yeah, in gills. So yeah. Reptiles! That's what's happening. It's the reptiles. Global warming. So they're going to bask on a rock and then they're going to swim into the sea. Reptiles. They're making a reptilian environment. Why did I?
Is this just the people from Norfolk?
No, just genuinely. There's going to be reptiles.
Just generally.
That's why the reptilian conspiracy is there, because they're warming up the earth to make a giant one of those greenhouse things that lizards live in, and they're all just going to sit on the top of the Rocky Mountains, which would be the only thing above sea level, and bask in front of the sun, which is now about 30 foot from the sky, and they're just going to bask on top of that.
To be fair, that sounds like a pretty good existence.
Yeah, well, you can be the first lizard on the mountain.
I'll be the first lizard on the mountain. I'll be like the lizard queen.
The queen of the lizards. We've already got
queen of the lizards.
We've already got a lizard queen. She's gonna.
Is that our Liz?
Oh, Liz. She's gonna be the queen of the lizards. Right. I believe that could be the end of the podcast. Now, what do you reckon, Bex?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've waffled on about conspiracy theories long enough.
That was quite a long episode. It was a marathon.
It was, actually.
Yeah, okay.
I enjoyed that, though.
It was good. It was good to have a natter. I enjoy a natter in the evenings. I hope you enjoyed the podcast as well. We will be back with more episodes very, very shortly. And don't forget to join the group. Don't forget
Good Morning Zompok, the group.
That one. And don't forget that Ricky Fleet has a new book out. We'll be running a competition for that, so keep an eye out for that. And I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.